Duh!
Robert Mueller's probe
Robert
Mueller's probe
seems to be broadening in various countries and at the same time tightening in on members of President Trump's family.
This is Brian Stelter. You may recognize the back of his head from Grindr, or his Twitter profile picture from Grindr, or his bloated, deep-fried intake valve from his something similar to work on CNN and Grindr. However, if you don't frequent these districts, and there's no judgment here, I'm actually pointing out that gaydar is an evolutionary advantage, then you've probably never heard of the weird, gropey, greasy-balled ovary that waddles to the CNN stage each night to shit out the time-release suppository his handlers just shoved up his back hole. May I remind you that this sort of television segment began with Grindin Brian Stelter drooling that, quote, Robert Mueller's probe was, quote, broadening and tightening at the same time.
Robert Mueller's probe seems to be broadening in various countries and at the same time tightening in on...
So, gaydar. Anyway.
But the more Mueller discovers, the more Trump's TV boosters have to deny. The worse things look for Trump's inner circle, the worse the deflections get. For example, look at this new CNN poll. It finds that 61% of Americans believe the Russia investigation is a serious matter. But if you're watching Fox, you're hearing the opposite. But just in the past few days, take a look at all these new headlines.
Quick time out to appreciate the infinite hilarity of CNN's Grindin Brian Stelter not only using fake headlines as some kind of evidence, but having one of those headlines come from the same fake network as his fake show. It's also the only outfit that stuck an anonymous source in the actual f***ing headline, meaning that the fakest fake headline being used as fake evidence of a fake crime was made by that same fake f***ing network in the first place. Take a moment to imagine the kind of bubble you'd have to be in to think that this was in any way okay. And for those of you saying, I don't get it, John, all I can picture is a rusted out 1972 Chevy Astro with Biden windows. You get it.
All these stories about what Mueller is asking in these meetings with the various people he's interviewing, what he might be finding. There's a news story in the New York Times this morning.
Skip. It should come as no surprise that this diabetic meat puppet was in effect 100% lying to 100% of his audience's faces 100% of the time for 100% of the past 2 years. Factor in the balloonosexual's affinity for jealously dragging Tucker Carlson into almost every single episode of his solo sex tape, and you will understand the God-kissed rampage of righteousness you are about to witness.
On CNN, Jeff Zucker dispatched his Eunuch to address the channel's viewership, meaning those Americans trapped at the airport waiting for flights.
This is Tucker Carlson. He's not particularly fond of Grindin Brian, groping his otherwise upstanding name into the 1960s sci-fi porno sometimes erroneously referred to as CNN. He's also endured over 2 years of weirdo attacks against his home, his wife, his daughter, his job, and his reputation, much of which was incited by Brian Stelter. Which is probably why he looks like he's going to do exactly what he's going to do. And Brian Stelter's career.
Jim Rainey at the LA Times took a lot of our stuff. Brian Stelter at the New York Times was helpful. Well, Brian Stelter has since left the New York Times. He's now the House Eunuch at CNN, announcing proclamations from his tiny king, Jeff Zucker. He takes his talking points, though, still from Media Matters. Here's Zucker's puppet.
A lot of what Fox does in primetime is resentment television, making you resent liberals and others who are trying to hurt you. That's the message from Fox. I think all of this matters because it's about decency and standards. It's about the corrosive, ugly, nasty behavior that sometimes happens on cable news or off cable news involving some of these hosts.
It's about decency, cries the Eunuch. We must have decency. By which the Eunuch means less disobeying, more obedience. Stop criticizing the program, or else. This is the face of state media. You may think CNN has been lying to you relentlessly for the last 2 years, the Eunuch explained. Not at all. CNN has done a fantastic job. None of this was our fault. We're amazing. Listen to him squeak.
Reporting is what adds the most value. Finding out something new, putting out new information into the world is the best feeling in journalism. It's the greatest value add. That's what hundreds of journalists have been doing. trying to solve pieces of this Trump-Russia puzzle. So don't be fooled by the partisans who cherry-pick the worst mistakes of individual journalists or the craziest ideas from commentators and claim that's the entire media. It's not. We're waiting for the facts, because here is what I know. I mean, you're going to hear this from the right for the next days and weeks to come, that the press has basically made all of this up to take down President Trump. But the press is just following a trail that Trump created.
The greatest value add. That's how CNN sums up its role in the Russia story. Does a single person believe that? Of course not. Not one person.
That's it for today. If you enjoyed this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to see more of it, consider supporting this channel through patronage, one-time donations, or by purchasing a shirt or song, all of which can be done on johnwardcinematics.com. The Post Your Merch Picture contest will continue until the end of April. Details also on the website. Thank you for watching. I'm John Ward, and until next time, remember, you're a world champion. Don't let your memes be dreams.
She said, I'm a feminist man, I'm a fucking man-eater. When I'm not in theater class, I'm blasting through glass ceilings. My feelings are so serious.